Hey guys, welcome back to the show. In this week's episode, we had an awesome conversation with Miriam Ezagui, a nurse and content creator with millions of followers all over TikTok and Instagram. We're going to talk about the importance of authenticity in content creation and in building an online community. We're going to talk about really insightful stories and talk about some challenges of juggling multiple parts of your life as a content creator, as a parent, and as a person. We hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Content Theory, a theorist podcast, the show where we dive into real-world challenges and success stories of content creation. I'm your host, Tzvi Simchon, and I'm joined today by our co-hosts, DJ Warga and Nasher Brooks.
What's up?
By the end of this episode, you'll learn all about real-world marketing challenges, uncover strategies that work, and hear from the people who are making it happen. Joining us today is the incredible Miriam Ezagui, who is known for being a nurse and content creator with over 2 million followers on TikTok and most recently broke 1 million followers on Instagram. Miriam has grown a massive online following where she shares her life as an Orthodox Jew and mother. Miriam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So good to see you. So good to have you here. How is everything going?
It's going well. Have little Miss Eddy with me.
I was going to say, yeah.
She comes along on all of my adventures and is the true star of the show.
She is the true star. She doesn't have her own mic, but she is officially the fourth guest of our show, of our episode. What's it like having her? Work and life and everything going on?
Well, she just kind of follows along with everything else. So it's very hectic, and she just kind of adds a little bit of her own to the chaos that's already part of our life. But wonderful addition.
It's awesome.
And she's doing some dance moves right now, obviously.
She is. She's trying to figure out, like, she still doesn't know that she has hands, so they just kind of flap around randomly. And she's getting to the stage where she's like, oh, maybe I can control these things that are attached to me. So that's kind of like where we're at right now.
I can't imagine. Is it the first time you're in this stage with a newborn since this new part of your life, I guess, that is influencing content creation, all this stuff?
Yes. So definitely different navigating it. I started creating content when my now second to youngest was 2 months old. And when I started, I didn't really have a platform. So I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary this January of content creating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're at 2 million and 1 million already.
Yeah, it's been
crazy.
wild. So this is my first time navigating it with a newborn. So it's exciting and taking it day by day.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not easy at all. But on that massive online following, how did you get there? How did you get to a place where you have millions of people as followers, people who are your audience, who are interested in your life? How'd you get here?
Well, I never foresaw what it would be today. It's not like I had a goal when I started content creating. And actually, when I started content creating, it was not completely different than what I'm doing now, but it had a different focus and direction. Again, I was newly postpartum then, and the focus of what I was creating was all around baby wearing, which does still play a part in my channel, but I was not talking about Judaism or identifying as a Jewish content creator online, mainly because I was afraid of the hate that I would get. So that has definitely changed from, what people know me as online now. Mm-hmm. But I never took any social media classes or anything. I completely self-taught when it comes to editing. I know you do a lot in terms of video creation, and honestly, it's something that I've learned as I've gone along with it. But right. I didn't take any classes. This wasn't a goal. This wasn't a new. It was more of a video vlog for myself that kind of opened up to a wider audience, and I guess people enjoy and it resonated with people. I think people are also curious. So it's just me being myself and filming, and people have had a very good response to it.
That's awesome.
When it started with baby wearing, what was the idea? Is there like a baby wearing community?
There is.
Really?
There's an
What does that
entire-
look like?
So it is definitely very niche, especially depending on what type of carrier you're using to wear your baby. So the most common are the buckle carriers. Then you have the ring slings, and then you have the wraps. And then within the wrap community, which is what I'm a part of.
I see you do the rapping.
Yeah.
Baby
There's
wearing in the wild.
The rapper.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's in the rap community.
There is actually, I had no idea, but one time I was doing a baby wearing video and I said something about a slip knot, which is like apparently that's like an entire band that people like went crazy about because I said slip knot in my video, which I had no idea.
She's a rapper. She knows Slipknot.
Yeah. So within the wrapping world, there are the stretchy wraps, and then there's the woven wraps. And then of the woven wraps, there's the machine woven and the hand woven. So you asked and I'm going like really detailed
I'm
into
getting
this.
educated right now.
I want to know.
So the hand woven community is definitely more niche because all of those wraps are hand dyed, usually made of high-end fibers like silk and linen, and they're made on a loom. And so each one is individual, and they oftentimes have what's called sister pieces, but each one is unique. So that is what I particularly love. And they tend to be a little bit more pricey because they are made by hand. And yeah, I like people are like, well, why do you like it if there's other ones that are so much easier to do? And for me, I like to call it wearable art because every single time you wear your child and you wrap, like a different part of the wrap shows, and they're so versatile versus like a buckle carrier. There's basically one or two ways that you can wear it, and it basically looks the same each time. Versus a woven wrap, there are endless ways to tie and carry your baby, and every single time you do it, it's going to have a different like effect because of the nature of the wrap.
Interesting.
So this is clearly like a passion of yours, and you found that audience through social media. How did you find the community before you even started making content?
So I originally found it on Facebook. There's Facebook groups, and so there were these groups of buy-sell trades where like you could buy wraps off of other moms, or for the weavers, each weaver has like their own Facebook group, and there's communities around it. So people were constantly selling and buying wraps, but there's also like posting like action shots where like, you have your baby in the wrap and like different shots of that. And I made friends within these communities. Some of them I'm still in touch with today. And like my very, very first time like entering the community was with my second daughter, Zahava, who's now 9. So
wow.
It's
Who's
really
your
neat.
go-to rap maker? Like if someone's looking for a rap, where do they go?
So it changes. And that's kind of also like, I guess, the community in general. It's very like, there's very much like who's in right now and whose raps are the most highly sought after. And like in terms, this is definitely like reflects like the price of wraps, because the wraps have like a market value, which is like what the weaver will sell it at. But then sometimes if there's a high demand for a particular weaver, the market value of her wrap can sometimes be double what she actually charges.
Wow.
So a typical wrap that's like about 4+ meters will run anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then
They're big. I saw them on the videos.
Yeah.
They're massive.
so that's like a retail, like the average retail price, but I've seen wraps go for $3,000-$4,000 and
Wow.
up.
Wow.
And that's like the, what we call the market value, what people are willing to pay for it.
This is like the sneaker resale game and like Hypebeast for moms.
Yeah, yeah. And it can be really competitive and sometimes not so cute. But, we always like to play it nice, but there's definitely drama in the groups.
Sure, I'm
yeah.
sure.
And, it's like, they have their own personal little politics of like the cool mom group or the cool weavers or the, so
Like high school.
yeah, definitely. Like there's definitely certain moms that always have like the most in wraps and like they could resell it for like top dollar no matter what it is. Wow. So there's a little bit of that too.
Were the baby action shots what kind of got you to start creating content? What was it that inspired you to actually like post stuff on your Instagram?
Well, it was a combination of a lot of different things. One of it was I was doing it anyways and I loved it and I was passionate about it. And it kind of gave me an excuse to like get dressed and not walk around in my pajamas all day. Cause again, I was like newly postpartum and just like, it was so easy to do that. So it kind of gave me like a direction in my day. Like, okay, I'm going to get dressed and put my baby on and film this so I look presentable. So there was like a little bit of like a selfish motivation involved because, some days it would be 4 p.m. and I was still in my pajamas.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's like that sometimes.
So there was that. And then I just thought that I had something to like give to the online world because rapping was so much of like a love and passion of mine. And it made such a difference in my parenting that I wanted to be able to give that to other moms that didn't necessarily know that it existed because it is a unique way of wearing your baby. And it, as a mom of multiple children, it made functioning within the home so much easier because sometimes older children needed like me to be there with 2 hands. And then I had a newborn baby that just wanted to be held, which is a whole nother discussion, which people
Like the efficiency aspect of it.
She's super mom, you know.
Well, I mean, it was, or cooking dinner or doing something, and just being able to have my hands available and put a baby on and they just like sleep through everything versus like being fussy and needing something. It was just like an easy way for me to multitask.
Got it. If I could touch on one thing you just said, that like you still have this proclivity to share. Like, that there's an aspect, there's a passion that you have, and there's a part of you that really didn't want to keep it to yourself. And I definitely think that that's like a real driving motivator for any content creator. Was that something, were there other parts of your life, maybe growing up, was there a part of you that alluded to that aspect of you to share and maybe even to something that hinted to you one day becoming a content creator?
So yes and no.
Okay.
I never first saw being a content creator, but talking to the point of like being passionate, like if I'm into something, I'm like super into it and super passionate about it. And I just like speak about it with my full heart, which I guess that passion comes through in my videos because while depending on like what area, like, right now I'm in my mom era where I'm wearing my babies and I'm super passionate about it. And so sharing that comes through online. But I'm also super passionate about being an Orthodox Jew and my lifestyle. And I love like different aspects of halacha, of Jewish law, and how, I'm not doing it just rotely because I'm told to. I connect to these different things in a meaningful way to me. And then I bring that to my audience. And a lot of it is my own personal connection. I don't sit here and represent every single Jewish person saying like, for me, dressing modestly is something that I connect to on a deep, meaningful level. And so I share my own personal connection. Not to say that every single person has the same connection that I do, but I think people relate to the fact that because I share it from a loving and passionate place, it resonates with people, whether or not they do it themselves. But because I'm sharing from a place of like deep meaning, I think that comes through in the videos.
It definitely comes through. It's like you're so on top of your identity that anyone's seeing that. And I think it's kind of a lesson for everyone that if you were just yourself, people would find it interesting. And it really comes through. Like it's fully, you love who you are, you want to share it with the world.
I think it was also like I hit like when the iron was hot where like people were just like kind of fed up with this like fake online persona. Yeah. And I just show up being myself. Half the time I'm, not wearing any makeup and my house is flying. And, I don't have a picture perfect like Instagram life that sometimes is portrayed by certain like content creators. It's not like curated. It's like sometimes I'm, storing my breast milk in my pajamas. And that's like what I film myself. And it's just me in my real life.
Was that the consciousness of your authenticity? Was that like prevalent since the start? Like, was that always something like in the back of your mind, like, I'm starting this, but if I'm starting this, I know I want it to be authentic? Or did it progress and become more apparent to you that that's what you wanted to do?
It's just how I created my videos. I never like, what you see is what you get. It's not like I was trying to pretend to be something that I'm not. And it really was, all of this has been a surprise. Sometimes I feel like I'm like looking at my life from like a bird's eye view, because it's like, is this really happening to me? Am I living this life? Because it's been a win-whirl for many good things. And not, again, it's not like I didn't have like set goals of like anything like revolving social media. It was just a lot of times, you know, I'm just living my life as like a mom and a parent, well, mom and wife and nurse. And sometimes like I get caught up in just like the day-to-day tasks of life. And then it's like, oh, I didn't make a video today. Like I always try to create at least one content to share. And sometimes like I'm not thinking about the broader picture or the reach. It's just like, oh, I didn't make a video. Let me make it, you know, it just becomes like a task type of thing. So I'm not like necessarily thinking about the wider reach, which is kind of crazy because the videos do tend to go out to larger numbers of people.
Your kids know you're famous?
Yeah.
Like, do they know that probably like 100 million people know who you are?
I mean, I don't think they understand the numbers, but they definitely, I mean, we get recognized on the street. So they know that I am a public figure. They know, you know, they watch a lot of my videos as well. Like I'll share it with them. They like to watch it. And there's actually a little bit of competition between my children as to who shows up in the videos more. Like,
it's pretty funny.
Who's winning right now?
I mean,
what's the record?
I mean, when I like create a family video, I try to show them equally and then afterwards I'll show it to them and they'll be like, Mommy, you didn't show me enough. And like, it's like a whole little competition. And if you watch my kids, some of them are like very animated. Like they know what's happening and they'll be like, they'll try and take up like more screen time or try to be like, they'll try to do something interesting because they know that people will talk about it. Like if they're like making a silly face or a comment
they're making content for you.
They literally are
That's awesome.
And that is nothing to do with me. That is them on their own doing that themselves. So it's interesting.
Do they get recognized? Like,
so
that's probably the weirder part of the question.
As a family, we definitely get recognized. Just I think it's like, we went to Disney World about a year ago and we were being stopped like every 5 minutes. Wow, and we took my parents with us on that trip. And my father, he was so blown away that like people would stop and like recognize it. Because he had like, I don't think I will ever get used to people recognizing me on the street. Like, it's honestly like the neatest part of like this whole like being a content creator, because a lot of times it's just me and my phone recording. And when I meet people in real life, it's like, oh my goodness, you actually see the stuff that I put out. Like
you almost forget that it's real people watching your videos. Yeah,
because so much of it is just like over a screen. So I love meeting people in real life. But like when we went on this trip to Disney World, my parents had never really experienced that before. And my dad watching like people come up to, he started filming people like fangirling over us.
Was there a counter going down on how many?
No, but I did make a video about it because it was kind of neat. It's neat because the content that I share is lifestyle, but it's definitely, you know, again, because I put a lot of passion and meaning into my videos and how I connect to my audience. People will come up to me and be like, you changed my life, or, you know, it's been like meaningful to the audience. And so when people share that with me, it's like, it's surreal.
Is there one story you could share of like one person, like an anecdote or something, if someone came up to you and
so
asking the heavy hitting questions?
So there's a few. And one time my husband and I were shopping in Bingo, which is, I like to describe it as like the Jewish Costco, because like
Accurate. Yeah.
everything is kosher, and it's a massive store that sells bulk items. So my husband gets recognized also. So one time we were shopping, and this Hasidic guy with like lange payas, like these long curly sideburns, saw my husband, not me, and stopped him. And he was like, I sent your wife a message a few weeks ago, and I hadn't seen it, unfortunately, but he stopped my husband. He didn't even see that I was there. Like I was like in another aisle, like looking at something, and my husband ended up pulling me aside to meet this gentleman. But he had sent me this long message, basically saying that he works. The nature of his job is he travels a lot to remote areas of the country. And he obviously looks very Jewish just in his presentation. And how he met non-Jewish people that knew all about Judaism because they watched my videos.
Whoa.
And he didn't know who I was, but they were like, oh, you're Jewish. I watched Miriam Ezagui. They probably didn't say Miriam Ezagui, but they said Miriam, the Orthodox Jew. Like he was in this little town where he didn't expect anyone to know anything about Orthodox Judaism. And here he was in a coffee shop. And this non-Jewish worker was asking him how he wanted to have his coffee to make sure that it was according to kosher standards. Was just a full circle moment, because he wasn't anticipating that on his travels, and she knew about it through my videos. So he wanted to just share his gratitude with us.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely interesting how like how one person's words have such an incredible reach. And obviously throughout history, that hasn't been a crazy idea. There are, political figures or what have you, who had that reach. But the fact that almost any person can, with a phone, who knows how to reach an audience, can actually make that happen is just really, really cool.
Or connect an audience.
Yeah, and connect as well. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, what you said, is connecting, because anybody with a phone can upload a video and it can go viral. But then being able to connect and form a community, I think that's the difference, because having a viral moment is exciting, but it comes and goes. And then channeling that into a community that actually is like a thriving community online, I think that's the difference.
What are the metrics for success, do you think, of that, of having a community? Is it just the amount of people? Is it likes? Is it people reaching out to you?
So this I kind of learned after the fact, just personally, because like I said, I didn't create content with like an intention of any of this happening. It just kind of happened authentically. But if somebody were going into content creating with a particular goal in mind of connecting with an audience or selling a product, I think it's important for them to have an idea of who their audience is. Like, who are you trying to reach? If you're trying to be a content creator, and then just knowing how you want to connect with them, because it's going to be different for everyone. I connect a certain way, in a way that's very authentic to my audience, but not everybody wants to have that authenticity. And there are plenty of content creators that are very successful, not necessarily portraying that authenticness
that could be kind of their way of connecting.
Yeah.
Of like being whoever they are. Like these there's a lot of phonies that we see online of like these business influencers.
Why are you pointing to me right now?
Yeah, you're
No, DJ.
not DJ. Like, I don't know. There's people that like portray like wealth or whatever, and they're not. But it almost connects with their audience because they want to see that.
People want to escape their reality, and whether they are aware of it or not, turning on their phones and going on social media is sometimes an escape from their own reality, and seeing somebody else's of this picture perfect, like what they. It's just an escape. Now, mine isn't so much that, as much as I like to call it like a feel-good moment, where a lot of my
That's like
videos,
wholesome.
yeah, so people use that word a lot. A lot of my videos have like a special like connection or meaning. I love telling stories, and I love those, like, you end the video with like a feel-good what's the word? Like there's a
Heartwarming.
payoff. There's a payoff, a feel
yeah.
good payoff at the end of it. So whether it's through a story or an image or something, it's a lot of the videos I like to try and, you know, relay that feeling. And I think people connect to, you know, how I present that.
It seems like you had the strategy just like you didn't have to work on it. So even you said you didn't go for any degree in social media or anything.
Yeah.
But you just naturally have like the storytelling skills and even the idea of a payoff, and having that in mind that's real strategy.
So I create content that I like to consume. So that's kind of how I learned. You know, I've developed friendships with other content creators, and it's neat to see like different styles. And as far as like just going back to like the nuts and bolts of content creating and editing and filming, you know, a lot of times my videos are 60 to 120 seconds. Whoa. And they're short little bits and bites of, you know, my life, but a ton of filming and editing go into that. Sometimes 1 to 3 hours go into just one video that I produce. Wow. So I don't think the audience that doesn't like create content on a regular basis knows the amount of like time that goes into like just little short videos.
What does your content creation process look like usually?
That's a good question. So I have a couple different style videos that I do. A lot of times when I'm answering a question about like religion or my life, where I'm talking directly to my phone, my camera, whatever. Those are, again, just like me holding my phone and kind of like looking into like having a face-to-face conversation with the person who's watching it. But then I also do like a day in a life, which is kind of like a mashup of a lot of different video images throughout my day, which sometimes don't even make any sense, you know, but it's like short little blips. And then I'm voicing over and telling a story on top of it. And so I have that style. And then I have like my wrapping videos where I'm wrapping my baby or I'm wrapping my head. And again, it's like a voiceover style, but it's like showing a progression from start to finish. And I think people like that payoff as well, where they're watching the process of something happening. And at the end, they get this finished product where it's just like, wow, it's neat to see how we got there.
So do you plan it before? Is there something that's going to happen and you're like, I need to write this script and then it's going to be this long. I'm going to put this there. How does it go usually?
So it depends. Yes and no. Some things are planned out and other things is just what most of my stuff is not planned. Most of it's like I wake up in the morning and it's like, what inspires me today? Or what question do I want to answer today? And it's like not planned. Things that are planned, like I do brand collaboration. So those are obviously like thought out and like planned. But like so Rosh Hashanah is coming up and I did pre-record. I haven't put it together yet. I need to work on it. But like,
here's a sneak peek. This is probably going to be posted when this is way after this is posted.
A little, probably after Rosh Hashanah, like a little bit after or right after.
Yeah. So I filmed. There's a gentleman that I know who I actually randomly met. There's Union Square Farmers Market I love the place, but there is a man there that sells honey and he collects all of his honey from his beehives that are all across New York City skyscraper rooftops.
No way.
Yes way.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. So we did a collaboration where he took me up to one of his rooftops and we collected honey. And so I'm going to be making and creating a video for Rosh Hashanah of like the process of collecting honey from
that is
his
so
beehives.
cool.
Were there bees in the bee? Like you stuck your hand in? Oh no.
Well, I didn't stick my hand in, but there were definitely bees around. He was also it's funny because we filmed this before I had Masadi. So I'm like very pregnant in the video. So it's gonna
look,
it's gonna be a little
like another one. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Were you wearing a beekeeper suit?
So he brought it up, but I didn't actually put it on because the bees were he was explaining to me that depending on the time of year and how much honey the bees have, they're either more or less aggressive. And because this was like a bountiful time of year, they were not very aggressive.
Ah,
So I did not even wear anything.
good to know.
Cool.
Yeah.
I
You
would still wear
trusted him.
something.
That's
Yeah.
I would not have trusted him.
Yeah, I would
way.
have worn like 2 layers, like
Like you're going paintballing or something.
yeah.
No, I if anything, he was more careful than I was. Like at certain points, he was like, "Okay, you need to take a step back now," and I was like, you know, yeah,
That's
he was-
so cool.
Would have been like some of the other, like that's definitely an interesting experience. What have been some other really like unique, interesting experiences like that this new like career path has brought you on?
So TikTok took me to March of the Living in Europe, and that was a pretty incredible. I mean, I share a lot on my channel about my grandmother's experience in the Holocaust and Holocaust education in general. It's something that is definitely an integral part of me as a person, and therefore, like it translated into my channel. So when they messaged me and offered me this opportunity, I was like, wow, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And the fact that like TikTok was doing this as a way to kind of reach the Jewish community and spread more awareness about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, and as like a bridge to show support, I thought it was very special and meaningful. And it was a group of a bunch of other content creators. Many were Jewish, not all of them were, but it was also a really neat space to be able to connect to other content creators. And it's neat to see other people's way of being creative and seeing like different methods of how they create content. So that was kind of neat. So there are many different concentration camps. Auschwitz is one of the most well-known in the world, and it is the concentration camp that my bubby was at. So definitely very meaningful for me on a personal level. And I actually like FaceTimed her while I was in Auschwitz.
Wow.
And her position in the work camps was she worked in the kitchen. So I took a video in front of the kitchen, and she was like asking me all about it. And it was, yeah. And I created one of the goals that I wanted to do from my trip there was to create content and be able to convey what I was feeling in that moment without just like taking a video of me crying. Because
Right.
I mean, listen, there's plenty of people that are very successful crying on camera. I've not to say that I haven't gotten emotional on camera before, but I didn't want that to be, I wanted people to feel the way that I was feeling in a different way.
It's interesting because I feel like for myself, I filmed in Auschwitz before, and I had a challenge of, I mean, I filmed in a different way. I'm more documented, but I had a challenge of experiencing it myself while also like I was hired there, contracted there to film. And it was my first time. So there was definitely obviously both. I obviously felt that there was, you know, a weight and a significance of me being there. But I guess you didn't, meaning for you it was different because you actually kind of did both, meaning you looked at it through a lens of your experience. So it wasn't like there was a dichotomy there. You kind of like.
Well, we spent 2 days there. The first day we spent touring Auschwitz, and I'm so happy that I had the time to do that because it was extremely emotional for me. It was very much like I was a mess. Like I was for sure like very emotional. It's probably the one time in my entire life I sat here and told you before that I love meeting people, and like there were people coming up to me and I'm like, I was a complete mess, like crying and like bawling. And it was like the one time that I wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you, you know? So we had that day, and the second day was the actual like March of the Living. And I decided the day before, like I pre-programmed my brain to think that they were celebrating life. We're not focusing on the horrible things that happened. We're celebrating that we survived. And that kind of gave me the kayach and strength to not cry my eyes out the whole day because I was like focused on like the positive. And it's actually really funny because after we completed the March of the Living, so we marched from Auschwitz to Birkenau. And when we left, I was, again, still very pregnant with Massetti. I think I was like 6 months pregnant at the time. I was the very last person to get back to our bus. And there was a group of like 20 women that were waiting for me. They wanted to meet me. And the other content creators were trying to explain that maybe it's not the best time, because they knew that I had this experience the day before where I was like, it's the one time that I'm not like in, but because like I kind of like, I was like excited, not excited. I was focusing on the living part.
And you were shooting content while doing the march?
Yeah. I mean, I shoot content all the time. So
It's like not,
it's
like even when
like,
you're, even the first day when you're like very emotional, you were still getting content.
yes, I was filming. Yes. There are some videos that I posted where I am talking to the screen, and you can see that I'm like emotional and that like I had been crying. I wasn't actually crying like in the videos, but you could tell that I was. And then a lot of it were scenes from around Auschwitz. And then like the opening shot of one of the videos that I created was like me standing by the barbed wire, like holding my belly. And I just think it's like a really, like what I'm saying in the video is like kind of speaks from my soul, but it's a shocking image.
Mm-hmm.
So
You talk a lot about just different sensitive topics, but it seems like you're always able to communicate it in a way it doesn't feel so sensitive anymore. How do you do that?
So I do talk, I think being a nurse and like prior to delving into the world of content creating, I gave birthing classes. So I was always in like a teaching space, and the topics that I taught about, I guess, tend to be a little bit more sensitive. While I love it and I'm super passionate about it, and it's one of the things where people are like, are you going to quit being a nurse? I'm like, no, I love being a nurse. Like I went into it more than just to like pay the bills, quote unquote. I did it I do it because I love it. I love being a mom and spending time with my family too. So being able to juggle it with being a content creator is definitely, I feel like I've kind of hit like a sweet spot, because working the night shift has its own challenges in and of itself. But I think there are a lot of nurse content creators that their specific platforms are just to educate and talk about being a nurse. And I think they're doing an awesome job. I will do like a little bit like a day in my life type of style video where I kind of run through my day as a mom and just kind of give you like a quick 24-hour glimpse. And I end off at work, or I start from work and be like, okay, I'm finishing off a shift. Now I'm going to go home and sleep, and then I'm going to wake up and I'm going to, go do your podcast and all these other different things that I'm, doing.
It's contextually in there, but it's not like,
it's part of who I am.
but it's not like your niche that you're focusing in on.
Exactly. I like to call myself a lifestyle content creator. It was actually, when I was on the trip to Auschwitz, one of the other content creators, her name's Ellie. I don't know if you guys know her. She's pretty big herself on various
What's her
platforms.
handle?
It's her name, Ellie Ziegler, I think is how you pronounce her last name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Ziegler, something like that.
Yeah. So
I'm probably saying it wrong.
So she said, people call her a lifestyle content creator. And she's like, I don't consider myself a lifestyle content creator because the audience that follows me, like my life isn't any different than theirs. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, it's an interesting point. I said, I call myself a lifestyle content creator. And she's like, you fit that because your life is vastly different than the majority of the people that follow you. And because while I'm an Orthodox Jew and I do have Orthodox Jewish people following me, the majority of my audience are non-Jewish people. And so I am very much creating to my specific lifestyle. So she's like, the term works for you. So it was kind of like, okay.
But that shows she obviously understands audiences and people. So like the way that she said that.
Yes, definitely. Cool. And I will say, like, a lot of times people ask me, like, how much of your audience is Jewish or Orthodox? I don't have numbers, but I can definitely say that the majority of my audience are not Jewish people that are following me to learn more about Judaism and my lifestyle.
What effect do you think you've had on anti-Semitism?
That is a very interesting question. And it's actually one of the reasons why I started content creating was with the goal in mind that I think there's two types of anti-Semitism. I think there are the people that just blatantly hate Jewish people, and those people, you are not changing their minds. The second group of people are people that are anti-Semitic that don't necessarily mean to be, but they have been fed misinformation about Judaism or the Jewish culture because their sources are a television show or a movie or maybe a newspaper article that was written and presented Judaism in an incorrect lens. And because of that, they think something and it's not necessarily true. So, for example, I wear a wig. I do not shave my head underneath, but there are so many people that think that Jewish women that cover their hair shave their head because they saw it in a movie. So, or somebody will tell me, oh my gosh, you're Jewish? You don't look Jewish. Like they're meaning it as a compliment, but that's extremely anti-Semitic because the roots of that is, you know, okay, why? Because I don't have a huge nose. Like portraying that Judaism is one thing. And so again, what I hope to accomplish with my videos is reaching that second group of people that are anti-Semitic, not necessarily meaning to be, but because they've been fed misinformation and that they just don't know enough about the Jewish culture. So I am trying to reach them. And I think I have made a difference because people from the community tell me that I do. So being in various situations, like the man that I told you about who his non-Jewish, how do you say someone who makes coffee for you? It's
Barista.
Barista. Thank you very much. So his barista, who was not Jewish, knew all about the laws of kosher because she watched my videos. And then there's other situations where people tell me that they've been in the hospital and people were knowledgeable about different customs because they saw my videos. So it's definitely reaching people and having an impact. And I think because you develop these online relationships with people, which again, it's called something, these parasocial relationships, where people feel like we're friends. And because of that, they feel a connection to me and then extensively to Judaism. And it makes them view Judaism in a positive light that they, or just simply having a connection that they didn't have before.
So now they're like 100 million people that can say, I have a Jewish friend.
Right.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And people tell me that I don't know anybody Jewish except for you.
Wow.
So it's neat.
Do you feel like, yeah, you go.
Okay.
You can go.
So like you talk about sensitive topics, like we spoke earlier. Do you feel like you have a responsibility to talk about these topics, to educate? Is that like, do you feel like there's a purpose of you being an influencer?
I'm going to say no, but I do feel I probably talk about it more than others because I'm just comfortable with it. And it's kind of like the unveiling of something. You know, I'm sharing with the audience like a peek into my life. And I kind of call it the zoo effect, where people are interested in something that is so different than how they live their lives. And it's giving them a window into my life that they wouldn't normally get to see. And so having that opportunity is intriguing to people. And then there's a lot of people that just like to hate on it too, because anything different draws that negativity out in other people.
I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts on in terms of influencers or even celebrities, anyone who has a real following getting involved in like politics, because it's very controversial. On the one hand, people will say, oh, you have a voice and you know, you want to maybe spread a certain message and like that's what you want to share. On the other hand, people will say, oh, you don't know anything about politics or, you know, what do you think about that?
So I think it's going to be different to each person. If it's really important. So I am not a political content creator. I really try to steer clear of politics because one of the messages that I like to portray to my audience is that it is a welcoming place for anyone and everybody. And sometimes politics can become a divide for not just a content creator, but within the community of, you know, online. So I do try to steer clear of that, but there are definitely content creators where they make a point of talking about that. And I don't think that there's a right or wrong. It's just what resonates with them as a person, because it's not something that, again, I'm trying to cultivate a accepting audience for everyone and to feel, I don't want there to be a divide based off of like a political ideology. So I'm not going to sit here and say you should vote one way or another, but I would say it's just important to vote. So,
Sure.
as an example.
Right.
Yeah.
Last question, and then I want to get to the rapid fire round, which Asher is going to spearhead. What would you say is the biggest mistake content creators make?
Or even that you made, like at the beginning?
I think going back to like understanding who your audience is, and that's going to be different for everybody. Another thing that I would say is, as people, we are constantly growing and changing. And as a content creator grows and changes in life, like they enter different roles, whether it's getting married or becoming a parent or some other lifestyles change that's like very different from where they started. A lot of times people start following a content creator for a specific reason. And when they have a personal shift in self, sometimes their audience has a hard time making that change with them and they feel disconnected from that creator. And I don't think it's a negative. It's just being able to how to pivot, because a lot of times people's communities have it could be a positive change, again, getting married or having a baby. Like I give an example, that's a positive change. Not always is the change positive, but it can then, the way the audience connects with that content creator can change, and their reach or their audience can also change. So I think there's like two things that are happening there, where the people that started following a content creator based off of one thing may not have a reason to still feel connected to them. And that can sometimes be disappointing for a person watching you. And that the shift in the way like the algorithms kind of push you out to who's your new audience. Right. So I think that is something that's interesting, because again, we are all growing and changing people. We don't necessarily always fit into a box, but a lot of times social media is so much about like fitting into the box that you've constructed for yourself. So that's what I would say.
Awesome.
Can we talk about the meta visit?
Yeah. So talking about like algorithms and boxes. So you were invited to the Meta office, like how many weeks ago?
It was last week.
Last week. So what's really going on behind the scenes? Like what did you see?
Well, this was like a presentation from them. Like my husband's like,
not too much tea, or like?
There's not too much tea, just because the people that were like involved in the presentation of it were like put on the stage and then they were whisked off. So it was basically a huge group of other content creators that were like invited to like the party at Meta kind of thing. But like the actual, like we weren't actually meeting the people personally who work there. Like my husband's like, get names and numbers. If you have any problems with your account, you can talk. I'm like, honey, that's not what this was. It was very much like this was a presentation. They were presenting this new platform that they're bringing for teens and to make it a safer place for them. And they were trying to use us as a way to help educate our communities about it. And so all of the content creators that were invited were all within the family niche content creators.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What was your biggest insight from that day?
So I think it's really important for parents to have a conversation with their teens about online safety. I don't think like having a black or white, like we don't let our child or our teen use social, like that can happen. That's each person's like right to do. I'm not telling people how to parent their children. I think that's also whole nother topic, but how to use social media in a safe manner of not like, here's a phone, you have free range to do whatever you want on social media, versus we're not giving you it at all. Because at some point they're going to integrate into that world, and how to navigate that in a way that's both physically safe and also safe, like, from a mental standpoint. Because there are so many different influences and it can be overwhelming. And it can be negative, but it can also really be positive because there are so many communities that are formed online. And one of the things that they mentioned that I thought was really neat is we all have like the For You page of like how things are pushed to us. And I always think it's always funny to like ask people randomly, so what shows up on your For You page? Because it tells a lot about a person.
Could be a big red flag.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right. So parents can cultivate their child's For You page by actually following specific accounts so that information or those types of videos pop up on their feed. So I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah. So what does your For You page look like?
I don't. I'd rather not share. No, I don't know. Actually, I haven't like checked it out yet.
I have like a lot of just social media gurus and
probably
business
just-
tips and
Mine's probably just camera unboxings.
a lot of food. A lot of food.
Oh, I have so much food too.
Dude, I
Also,
love
like
food. I know every not kosher dish. Like I could cook it. Just give me the ingredients. I can't eat it.
I
I
love
somehow really
food.
believe you.
I also have like a lot of like gardening, like these like farm video. Also, oh my goodness, have you seen the videos of the cows where they're cleaning out their hooves?
What's that guy's
Oh
name?
my gosh, it's so
And the
satisfying.
sheep, when
though.
they shear the sheep.
It's really satisfying. I think.
my
I don't know about you guys.
I have an entire For You page of
There's
that.
a whole trend with people taking like a cup of pudding or ice cream, and then as they scrape the top off, it kind of looks like the way they scrape off the hoof. Those cow
really?
videos.
I didn't know that.
And there's a sound bite that they take. It's like, welcome back to.
I
He
haven't
watches
gotten that
those.
far into it.
So I'm a big YouTube Shorts guy. So like I get every like trend like a month after it's like been the trend.
That's so
And I'm
funny.
fine with that.
That's so funny. And then for me, it's like sometimes I get these peeks into like these other worlds and niches. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And then I'm like, whoa, that's like a really big thing. Like they've got like, these people get millions and millions of views on like this one topic. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I don't know if I could say this on the podcast. I didn't even know what the Hagtua stuff was until like a month ago.
What is it?
What is that?
Exactly.
What is it? What
We
is
can leave it at that.
We can leave it at that. I don't know if this is gonna be in the podcast, but it's a girl that became super famous from like an interview on the street.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. You can search it up.
You know what I didn't know was you guys don't have to include this, but there's apparently it's a thing to like eat mass amounts of like food.
Yeah, they call it what's
A
the word?
mukbang?
A mukbang, yes,
Yes.
that's what it's called.
love
I
those.
had no idea that was a thing. Listen, I do my own content creating around food. I love food, and
You
I'll
did
take
your
a
own
bite.
mukbangs before.
No, I do not do. I do
Before it
not.
was famous.
I do not do that. I'll take a bite, but like it's a thing to like watch people eat an entire like sub sandwich or stuff. It's,
Sub sandwiches, nothing. They have full tables of food.
wow.
I'm still gonna hate that they take cuts and they don't actually eat that. They have like a large family behind the screen and
Yeah, there was
Oh,
one
no.
there was one video of a guy, I think he ate an entire like tub of strawberries over like a course of I don't know what, and it got like millions and millions of
better
views.
strawberries than like a tub of French fries. Like, that's
But I
great.
wonder what I think. Is it just like interest? Is it just like a crazy thing to watch? Like I wonder what like is so like
It's
interesting
like
about
competitive eating. Like people would watch like what's that guy?
like is the payoff just seeing like like an empty table that's like that had like 12 sandwiches on it?
it's a reverse cooking video.
I
You
think
start with
reverse
a lot of
cooking.
food and you end up with no food.
So I researched this a little bit because to me I was not so interested in. I mean, it's not something that I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like it was kind of like,
You're not going to binge watch 10
yeah.
episodes at a time.
but there is like a subconscious thing to like one. I think it goes into the ASMR factor.
Yeah.
Which I don't particularly like hearing people chew, so it doesn't work for me. But I guess some people do.
It's a phobia. It's like there's a word for it of people that like a
Is that
sensitivity.
is that a pet peeve? Chewing?
No, it's not a pet peeve. I just wouldn't watch an entire video of it. I'd rather watch somebody like combing out their hair. That sounds nicer to me. You know, like I definitely like the ASMR stuff, but I think it goes into like the psychological, like people have a lot of interesting relationships with food, and it plays into that, whether or not they like restrict themselves or they binge themselves. Watching somebody else eat mass amounts of food does something to like their psyche is basically what I did a little bit of
I
research
think it
on
might also be with all of these, it's like anything sensory, you develop a certain insensitivity to it. I forgot what the word is, but it
that's the
stops
word.
being a tolerance.
Yeah.
And then it needs to go more and more extreme. So if we can understand that, like, it would be enjoyable just to see a sandwich by itself.
Right.
It would make you salivate, whatever it is. So now to see 10 sandwiches and see someone eating it and then see 100 sandwiches, I think it just gets more and more to the point where it's doing the same thing that any food would do, but just on a way bigger scale.
Right. That's actually a really good take.
Miriam, do you usually do a lot of research and like on different trends or topics or, and how does that look like? How do you do research?
That's a very good question. Sorry. That's a very good question.
Thank you.
So I spend so much time on social media as a content creator, but like 90% of my time is spent on my own channel. And I do like to go to the For You page and watch what other people are doing and creating to stay relevant. And sometimes I will jump on trends and do something that's trending in the social media realm because I think it's fun and it's neat. A lot of like, I don't have a difficult time coming up with content. Like it's flowing out
Your
of
life
me.
is content.
Yeah, because of the nature of being a lifestyle content creator, like, you know, I can shoot a video in my bathroom of how I don't rip toilet paper on Shabbos and it gets 1 million views.
That was one of the biggest ones, right?
It was up there and yeah, it got like 10, 12 million views for, you know,
Toilet paper.
toilet paper. Yeah. So I don't have like a lack of creativity, but I do like to do trending things because I think it's kind of like a fun payoff for my audience. So the video that I did of like my hospital reveal of like going to the hospital to give birth was the trending video of that Elvis song where we're running over our phone and it's in
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a fun payoff that people enjoyed. And I
It's
think
crazy. You did a video like pre-birth and then same frame, same dress, post-birth with baby. That was like, that's a lot of effort. Like, and it seems like it's like not, but it obviously was.
No, it's very interesting. Like, so, but going back to your original question is I don't do a lot of research in terms of like what's viral, but I will do research if I am talking about a topic in Judaism. Sometimes I will research something because I'm like, I learned about this last when I was in high school, and this is what I remember my teacher saying about it. But let me just double, because sometimes people from the community will like fact check me and be like, well, actually,
Right.
Or there's also, of course, because there's different like customs in different communities, people will like to say that, and again, I never like to represent all Jewish people. I like to say that this is like, you know, what we follow.
Sure.
So because people in the community sometimes will get a little particular in comments saying, well, I'm Jewish and I don't do X, Y, and Z. So, but I do try to be as factually correct as possible when I'm talking or answering a question.
Awesome. All right. Moving on, we have the rapid fire section of our podcast.
All right.
And the answer is keep it short and we're going to keep it fast. And we're going to start with easy questions and progressively get a little harder. Are you ready?
No.
It's gonna be great.
That's exactly what I want to hear. Okay. First, TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram now.
Okay. Awesome. We want to hear more, obviously, but we're gonna keep it a little tease. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Okay.
Interesting.
Talking about pets, what's your biggest pet peeve?
When you are driving a car and the person in front of you, like I live in New York and people will double park and the person in front of me doesn't know the dimensions of their car and they're inching by and they've got all the space in the world and it's just like, know the dimension of your car.
It's a Brooklyn thing.
That was a fresh pet. That was like
I
an
like
open
that.
wound.
Yeah.
That was so fast.
You told me to be fast. I'm
It's
trying.
good. It's good. If your account was deleted tomorrow, what content would you remake? Oh, I went too fast.
I know that was. I have everything saved. I can just re-upload.
Okay. A little bit of a cop out. I'll let that one pass.
Sorry.
Favorite creators and influencers you met?
I went down to Florida and I met a content creator that does like food harvesting from like tropical plants.
Wow.
And he does these like farm to table, but not in the farm, in like the tropical section. So that was neat.
I think I've seen him.
Gray Davis.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
Like he eats like those weird bananas. Like, okay.
He climbs a coconut tree.
What's your biggest lesson that you learned from content creation?
whatever you put out there is for forever. I mean, it's that, you think that like, I'm just putting this, you can't delete something and think that it's gone. It's out there.
I like that. We're getting a little harder. If you could talk to yourself when you, like before you posted your first video, what would you tell yourself?
It's a wild ride.
How do you prepare for that?
You don't. It's just I mean, it's in a good way, but I sometimes wonder if people are supposed to be in front of mass amounts of people and hearing so many opinions, because I am a positive person. I like to focus on the positive, but there's also a lot of negativity on social media, and saving someone's mental health. Like if you're going into the content creating world, knowing that I think it's really important for people to have a safe place to talk about their mental health or to save them that space, because it can be really difficult if you're not prepared for it.
Okay. Getting a little harder. Favorite child? We'll skip that one. My bad. Was not supposed to be there. And this one's.
I thought you were going to say favorite childhood memory, and then favorite child. Okay.
Okay. Now we got a real heavy hitter. You ready?
Uh-huh.
So, you kind of touched upon this actually, but you share a lot about your life. Mm-hmm. But what's one thing that you haven't shared publicly yet?
I mean, I have certain boundaries of topics that I will not share. Mm-hmm. But I have a hidden talent that I've never talked about.
Ooh, hidden talent.
Well, I don't know if it counts anymore because I don't know if
It's not hidden.
it's not hidden. I don't know if it's still a talent, but
Hidden talent unveiled.
yeah. I used to be very athletic and do like gymnastics and stuff. So like when my friends would get married, you know how like in front of like the Hassan Kala, like you do like different like stunts and stuff. So on the women's side, I would do like all these like different like flips and cartwheels and stuff.
Way.
Yeah.
That's sick.
But now that I've had children, I haven't exactly kept up with that. So I don't know if my body would still be able to do that. But yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Okay. You crushed it.
Awesome. That was pretty good.
Okay.
That's pretty good. Ending question. If all your followers were standing, hypothetically, if all your followers were standing in a room with you, what would you tell them?
To love and accept everybody as they are, because ultimately none of us are perfect, but we all want to be accepted. So if we can flip that and not judge other people for their imperfections, that's what I would say.
Is that like I feel like that's probably definitely a driving, underlying theme throughout all your content.
Yeah, it's probably an underlying theme in my life. So that translates into the content that I produce, because I think so much of the negativity is out there is because people are judging other people. And I think if we were just a little bit more accepting of people's differences, it would be a happier place.
I agree.
I love that. Snaps.
All right. Miriam, thank you so much for joining us today. We had an incredible time. Thank you for your insight, for the stories you've shared. This was great. This is a really fun time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, thank you everyone for listening to the show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated for our upcoming episodes.
See you guys.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Reach for the stars.